The awakening journey when the Holy Land calls Jonathan Roumie by name. When an actor realizes he is not just playing a role, there are roles that make an actor famous. There are roles that change their career. And there are roles that change the very substance of their soul. For Jonathan Roumie, the role of Jesus in The Chosen is not the first kind. It belongs to the third kind, the rarest, the most dangerous, and the most sacred. He didn't come to this role by some calculated career move, but with the feeling of being led by an invisible hand. In many interviews, Jonathan has shared, "I didn't go looking for the role of Jesus. The role of Jesus found me."
It feels less like he is
And it was precisely that mysterious calling that led him back to the Holy Land, where the story began, where every grain of sand, every gust of wind, every stone slab carries the memory of the man he is portraying. For many actors, visiting the real location is just research for their character. But for Jonathan, this trip was not acting technique. It was an inner journey, a pilgrimage, a meeting with the very soul of the role. The first steps. When the air of Jerusalem feels like it has been waiting for him, Jonathan arrived in Israel in a delicate and sensitive context. Jerusalem, as always, was full of contradictions, prayers interwoven with hurried footsteps, the sacred mingled with unending tension. And yet, strangely enough, on the day Jonathan arrived, the guide recalls the air that day was strange. Not hot, not cold, not noisy, not heavy.
I think someone just came in.
It was like the city was holding its breath, waiting for something.
When we broke the bread,
Jonathan stepped out of the vehicle. He didn't say much. He stood still for a few seconds, watching the sunlight rest on the golden stones of the old city, then said a sentence that left everyone silent. "I used to play Jesus.
This is my
But right now,
body.
I feel like he's looking back at me."
Plays in a body.
This was not a line from a method actor setting the
We
mood.
thought he was simply rehearsing.
It was the confession of a man touching something beyond reason. The upper room. The moment Jonathan felt someone standing next to him, the first place Jonathan visited was the upper room where Jesus instituted the Eucharist and washed the disciples' feet. The space is much smaller than you'd imagine. Curved arches, light filtering through narrow windows, the smell of ancient stone mingled with the breath of thousands of years of history. Jonathan stepped in, stood alone in a corner of the room, his hand gently touching the time-worn wall. Their guide recalls, "We thought he was just getting into character for a season 6 scene." But then Jonathan turned around and asked, "Did someone just walk into the room?" There was no one. Later, Jonathan would say, "For a few seconds I felt like I wasn't just in this room, but I was inside that very moment, the moment he broke the bread and said, 'This is my body.' I literally started trembling. No special lighting, no strange sounds, no camera tricks, just a spiritual experience, a moment. When the man playing Jesus touched the memory of the very place where he once stood. The Garden of Gethsemane, where Jonathan could not hold back his tears. This was the moment that stunned the entire documentary crew. The Garden of Gethsemane at night is incredibly quiet, quiet enough that you can hear the slightest rustle of leaves. Jonathan walked among the ancient olive trees, some of which have existed since the time of Jesus himself. One crew member said he didn't say a word for about 15 minutes. He just walked, just touched the bark, and then suddenly, he started crying. Not crying from being moved, not the kind of crying actors can summon on command, but the crying of someone carrying a weight heavier than himself. Jonathan said, "I felt like I was sharing his loneliness, not performing it, really sharing it." An actor can learn emotions, but no one can act the deep sense of abandonment that comes from standing where that man once knelt and prayed, "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me." In that moment, Jonathan was no longer reenacting the suffering, he was touching it. Via Dolorosa. The road he walked where his feet felt twice as heavy. On the third day, Jonathan walked the Via Dolorosa, the way of suffering, where Jesus carried his cross. The road is steep, paved with ancient stones, winding through Arab markets, both noisy and sacred at once.
The commentary suggests
Jonathan
that
walked in
sometimes
silence.
the heaviest crosses
No
are
filming,
invisible,
no
carried
acting,
in the quiet
no
of the
staging.
heart.
But he later shared,
Stone on that road
there were segments where my
felt like
feet
it
felt
remembered a
so heavy
story
I could hardly
we'd never
move.
forget.
Not physically. It was like a spiritual weight pressing down on every step. A crew member said we thought maybe his foot hurt or something. But then we saw him drop to his knees and press his forehead to the ground. That moment was not in any plan. No one had expected it. No one had scripted it. Jonathan said, I felt like I was walking between two worlds. One world was Jonathan the man, and one world was the memory of the one I'm trying to understand. Asur,
The central figure of the story.
the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The moment he couldn't bring himself to touch the stone,
Being chosen for
here Jonathan stood before the stone of anointing and the empty tomb. The shooting coordinator recalls, we needed a shot of Jonathan reaching out to touch the stone. But he couldn't raise his hand.
Some
Jonathan
thresholds
admitted.
are crossed with silence.
It was the first time in my
rather
life
than
that my
grand
hands felt
gestures.
unworthy.
In that moment,
I've played Jesus
he remembered
hundreds of times in front of the
he is
camera,
first a pilgrim,
but in that moment,
an actor.
I was just a sinner standing
I
before
call
a
this the
mystery.
day I learned
Some people
that
are great
humility,
actors.
not
Some
skill,
people have strong
is the
faith.
truest preparation.
But very few experience the intersection of those two things to the point that they literally cannot move.
But because of
When the role chooses the actor and the Holy Land confirms it, Jonathan once shared, I never thought I was worthy to play Jesus. But the more time I spent in the Holy Land, the more I understood I wasn't chosen because I was worthy. I was chosen because I was willing. That was the turning point. This was no longer a journey of character study. No longer a promotional trip, no longer spiritual tourism. It became a meeting between a man and a sacred reality. A meeting that turned Jonathan, though an actor, into a pilgrim, a seeker, and someone being led rather than leading. End of chapter 1. The call from the ancient land. As he left Jerusalem to prepare for season 6, Jonathan said, I'm not bringing the Holy Land with me. The Holy Land is bringing me. This journey did not make him become Jesus. It made him a witness, a man who has been allowed to touch a tiny glimpse of something small in measure,
The land did not teach him
but big
how to
enough to
act,
change a lifetime.
only how.
This is the foundation for season 6, to become not just another season of storytelling, but a work that touches the spiritual depths beneath the narrative. And this is only chapter 1, when role and faith become one. When a role becomes an invitation into the sacred, some actors inhabit a role through
There were
technique,
countless
some
angles
through
for the
emotion.
light, yet it chose
But Jonathan
that
Roumie
exact
inhabits his role through faith. For him, Jesus is not a historical figure to be researched, nor a religious character to be transformed into. He is the one Jonathan seeks, the one he prays to, and in a sense the one who has gone before him to open the way. The Holy Land didn't just change Jonathan's feelings. It revealed signs, signals that he describes as things that let me know I wasn't walking alone. Strange coincidences begin to appear. The documentary crew traveling with Jonathan says that throughout the trip they witnessed many coincidences that were hard to explain. 1.
How
A coincidence
shaft
of prayer.
light can
One
become
morning
a
in
word to a
Capernaum,
listening
Jonathan sat
heart.
alone by the Sea of Galilee. 2 minutes earlier, he had been praying with Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. The moment he closed the book, the sun suddenly broke through the clouds in a single beam, shining directly where he sat. A crew member recalls, there are hundreds of angles, thousands of possible shafts of light. But at the exact moment he finished the psalm,
Look at that.
a single ray
It's just
landed
hanging
right on
there.
Jonathan.
Is that real?
Jonathan just smiled and whispered, I hear you. 2. a coincidence of weather. The day the crew went to Golgotha, the forecast called for rain.
It's not a miracle.
But at the very moment
It's a
Jonathan
reminder
stepped onto the hill of the
that
skull,
timing
the site believed to be the
often
place
carries
of execution.
In such
The clouds
brief
parted and sunlight flooded the
a
area
heart
for
can say
exactly
more than in hours of
12
book.
minutes. A local guide said, "Everyone here knows how unpredictable the weather is." But for sunshine to open up precisely for the time the crew needed, that's rare.
Sometimes grace comes in
12
measured
minutes, just enough for Jonathan to
Just
walk the
enough
area
for
and
one
finish praying.
humble prayer.
Then the sky closed again. Jonathan said, "It's not a miracle, but it's a reminder that everything happens exactly as it needs to." 3. A coincidence of calling by the Jordan River. Jonathan stood where Jesus is believed to have been baptized. There was no plan to shoot anything specific, no pre-written reflection. The crew just wanted a quiet shot of Jonathan looking at the water. But unexpectedly, he said, "I feel like someone just called my name."
I feel as though
No one heard anything but the water.
my name
Yet
is
Jonathan
just
insisted, not loud, not clear, not like a human voice, more like something echoing inside me. A crew member later said, "In that moment no one
Not a
dared to
human
ask
voice,
further."
but
It was
a
as if the
gentle
air
echo
itself had thickened.
arising from within.
These coincidences may be nothing more than feelings,
Sometimes
but for someone on a deep spiritual journey like Jonathan, they were signs small but meaningful. Reading the Gospels where the events actually happened. One of the most important parts of the trip was Jonathan reading the Gospels in the very places where the events took place. 1. The Sermon on the Mount. When written words become breath.
suggests that this
Jonathan
is how
stood on the
callings
Mount of
often
Beatitudes, where
soft
Jesus
enough
is
to
believed to
ignore,
have preached the
strong enough to
Beatitudes.
change you.
A gentle wind,
Middle-aged African American,
swaying grass,
the river becomes
a
less
strange
location
stillness
and more
separating that
mirror,
place from the
reflecting
modern world.
who he is called to become.
Jonathan opened the Gospel of Matthew and read,
Blessed are the
poor in spirit." A crew member said, his voice wasn't like when we film.
You were right.
He wasn't in character. He wasn't performing. It was like he was reading a personal invitation addressed to him.
Reading those words.
Jonathan shared, "I realized I wasn't just reading his words.
Into oxygen for his soul.
I was standing where those words were spoken for the first
Scripture
time.
feels less like history.
In that moment,
and
text
more like
became breath.
present tense invitation.
Words became reality. And Jonathan became a listener, not a performer. 2. The Sea of Galilee, where "Follow me" still echoes through time. At a certain spot on the Sea of Galilee, where some scholars believe Jesus called his first disciples Jonathan, stood in absolute stillness. The cameraman said, "We let the camera roll for 10 minutes. Jonathan didn't move. It was like he was really waiting for someone." Later, Jonathan shared, "I asked myself, if he stood here, looked into Peter's eyes, and said, 'Follow me,' then today, who would he look at? And if he looked at me, would I dare say yes?" That's not a question for an actor. That's a question for a man. Unexpected encounters with locals. An interesting part of the journey were the people Jonathan met, most of whom had no idea he was the actor from The Chosen.
I was imagining
1.
those eyes turning
The elderly Jewish man.
with the same
In a
simple
Jerusalem
invitation.
market, an old spice seller stared at Jonathan for a while and asked, "Where are you from? Your eyes don't look like a tourist's." Jonathan smiled. "I'm just here to learn about this place." The old man nodded. "Those who seek truth never get lost. This land will show you the way."
Discipleship
Jonathan said,
begins wherever someone
That is one of the
stops,
sentences
pretending
that
they are
stayed with
only
me.
an observer
2.
of the story.
The Arab woman on the Via Dolorosa. This woman didn't know who Jonathan was. Yet as he passed by, she took his hand and said, "Peace be upon you. This is the road of courageous hearts." Jonathan was moved to the point he had to turn his face away. Simple words from people he did not know felt like pieces of guidance being handed to him. No one can explain why such encounters happened precisely when Jonathan was struggling most deeply inside, and when art is overtaken by truth. For many actors, a role is temporary, but for Jonathan, stepping into the Holy Land removed the temporary mask.
Where are you from?
What remained was the role he must live, the faith shaping him, and the sacred bond between him and the character the world looks at. He said, "When we filmed The Chosen, I tried to understand him with my mind. But in the Holy Land, I started to understand him with my heart."
This land will
That difference reshapes season 6. A season Jonathan describes as the season where I'm no longer acting. I'm praying every scene. The moment he realized the portrait of Jesus he plays had changed forever. Near the end of the journey, Jonathan was taken to a small chapel near Bethlehem. No crew, no fans, no lights. Just Jonathan alone in a stone room. He knelt and whispered, "I'm not asking to be a better actor. I'm asking to be a little more like
This
you."
encounter confirms
It was one of the
he is
few
not only
prayers he later
reading
shared
scripture,
publicly. A crew member said Jonathan walked out of that chapel as a different man. His eyes were deeper, his voice lower. It was like he'd laid down one burden and picked up another. That is the nature of a sacred role.
Please.
It is not something you simply perform, but something that changes you. When faith becomes an acting method, in cinema actors have many methods: method acting, Meisner technique, Stanislavski system, Brechtian approach. But Jonathan doesn't rely on any of those. His method is faith. It's the only way he can approach a character he describes as, "I can't play Jesus without letting Jesus touch me." The Holy Land trip wasn't prep work for a role. It was a work of opening his heart. A journey where the role and the man didn't simply blend, but entered a relationship. Jonathan did not become Jesus, but he became someone who listens more deeply, someone who prays more sincerely, someone who believes more strongly, and someone who acts from the heart rather than from technique. That is the essence of Chapter 2, when a role is no longer a job, but a vocation. Heart between a pilgrim and a legendary land. When an actor becomes a pilgrim. In the previous chapters, we saw Jonathan Roumie walk through the lands of Scripture like a seeker, searching for missing pieces for a calling for himself after years of embodying Jesus. But in the next phase of this journey, Jonathan doesn't just visit the Holy Land. He belongs to it, even if only for a few short days. This is no longer a research trip, no longer mere filming. It becomes a pilgrimage of the heart, where a man touches the wounds of history of humanity and of his own soul. The strange moment at the feeding of the 5,000, when silence speaks. On the 4th day, the crew took Jonathan to Tabgha, where tradition says Jesus multiplied the loaves and fishes. There is a small stone courtyard, low wildflowers. Wind from the Sea of Galilee blows in, carrying the smell of salt and fresh grass. Jonathan stood there, looking at the place that witnessed one of history's most famous miracles.
The most powerful
And then something strange happened.
are often gentle
One,
enough to be missed
not that
by
the wind stopped,
inattentive.
but that sound stopped. A crew member recalls, "I was hearing waves, birds, tourists." And then, just for a moment, less than 10 seconds, everything disappeared. No wind, no footsteps, no camera sounds, no leaves. Only Jonathan standing still, eyes closed, lips moving as if speaking with someone. After that moment, he opened his eyes and said something that gave everyone chills. He told me, "I'm still here." No one asked anything more. No one tried to analyze. No one attempted to explain the vanishing of sound. Only silence remained and the shiver of those who were there. The conversation with an old monk. A warning for the man who bears the image of Christ. At a monastery near Tabgha, Jonathan met an elderly Benedictine monk who had lived in seclusion for nearly 70 years. The monk looked at Jonathan for a long time and said, "I know you. Not because of the show. I know you because of your eyes." Jonathan was startled. "So what do you see in my eyes?" The monk smiled gently. "I see a man carrying a cross without knowing how heavy it really is." Jonathan fell silent. The monk continued, "You can act, but you cannot escape the eyes of humanity. Once they believe you're an image of him, you'll have to live in a way that doesn't betray that trust." Then he said a sentence that brought Jonathan to tears. Let people see him through you, but never let them think you are him. That conversation stayed with Jonathan for the rest of the trip and through all the seasons that followed. The journey to the house of Mark, when Scripture becomes reality. The crew went to St. Mark's Syriac Orthodox Church, traditionally considered the home of Mark and an early gathering place for believers. Jonathan walked into a small stone room, low ceiling, with soft yellow light from candles flickering along the walls. A young monk invited him to read from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 14. Jonathan opened the book and read. And he took bread, gave thanks, and broke it.
It felt less like reading.
But as he reached that line, his voice suddenly caught. Not from emotion,
As it was taught
not from
in the
pressure,
beginning, so it remains
but
now.
because
We are merely
something in the
vessels
room
for this
had
eternal
changed.
wisdom.
The commentary
1.
suggests that
The air grew
sacraments become
heavier,
most
but not
vivid,
frightening.
where people remember they
Jonathan
began
described,
small,
I felt like the room shrank, even though no one
When
moved.
the moment passes,
Like someone
the
else had
chapel
joined
feels
us.
ordinary again,
He didn't stop.
though his
He
heart
continued
does not.
reading. This is
Some
my body.
experiences do not
A crew
require
member
proof.
standing behind whispered,
They simply
I'm not
ask
Catholic,
to
but
be
in that
cherished.
moment I felt like we were standing in the actual supper. That presence lingered for about a minute, then dissolved as if nothing had happened. The place where Peter wept. A meeting between human weakness and divine mercy. Jonathan very much wanted to visit one particular place, Peter's prison, where he is believed to have wept after denying Jesus 3 times.
And that I too
The room was
have
damp
days
and dark
without
with
enough
rough
courage.
stone walls. Nothing
This
beautiful,
is not
no iconic
me
imagery,
speaking as
just a
Jesus,
space of weakness
but as
and
a
regret.
fellow
Jonathan walked in, placed his hand on the cold stone and murmured, Peter, I understand you. I have my days of not being strong enough too. A crew member burst into tears hearing that,
Just as
because this wasn't Jesus the actor speaking. It was a man acknowledging his own fragility. Jonathan sat down on the stone floor, closed his eyes, and prayed. If you chose Peter despite his weakness, please use even my weakness. This was the first time Jonathan openly admitted that the weight of this role sometimes frightens him. But in the place where Peter
often
broke
grows
down,
brightest,
Jonathan found peace.
where people
At
stop
Magdala,
pretending
the most
they
profound
never fall.
encounter of the trip, Magdala, hometown of Mary Magdalene, was one of the places that moved Jonathan most deeply. He once said, Mary is the character who helps me understand Jesus' healing power more than anyone. As the crew stood on the floor of the ancient synagogue where Jesus is believed to have preached, Jonathan went unusually quiet. He looked down at the 2,000-year-old stones and said, Mary walked on these stones. He stood here. The gospel began here. A guide asked, What is it that moves you so much? Jonathan answered, Because this is the place where he saw value in someone the world had thrown away. And I believe he still sees value in those the world calls useless. Jonathan stood there for several minutes. No filming, no acting, no words. Just standing as if listening to the voice of a woman healed 2,000 years ago.
That love often begins
The Dead
with
Sea,
seeing worth
when body and soul
world
touch the boundary of emptiness.
The same
At the
gaze
end of one day, the
mercy
crew
that
went to the
met
Dead
her
Sea, the saltiest body of water in the world, where nothing can sink. Jonathan stood at the shore watching the eerily still surface. A crew member asked, Do you want to go in?
For an elderly East Asian
Jonathan shook his head.
these stones sing of
Not
second
today.
chances, even
This
though
isn't a
they
place
make
for
no sense
experiment.
at all.
This is
It's a
my
place for
deepest lesson
contemplation.
in how healing
He bent
looks
down,
through
picked
the
up a
eyes
solid
the
block of
one
salt and
I
said,
portray.
This place is like our soul when it has lost hope, hard, heavy, and barren of life. Then he added a line that left everyone quiet. But God is never afraid of lifeless places. He comes precisely to bring them back to life. This became one of the deepest reflections of the whole trip and a key piece in shaping Jonathan's Jesus in season 6. And when the pilgrim's gaze changes, the story that was never filmed. One night the crew stayed in Nazareth. Jonathan couldn't sleep, so he went out for a walk alone. He passed narrow alleys, stone walls, and small wooden doors. A little boy about 8 years old ran past, then suddenly stopped and stared at Jonathan. He asked in Arabic, Are you a teacher? Jonathan smiled. "No, I'm just a tourist." The boy shook his head. "No, your eyes look like someone who knows how to teach people to love." Jonathan choked up. The boy ran off. No one knows who he was. The crew didn't capture that moment. No cameras, no lights, no script. Yet that moment changed Jonathan's gaze. After that night, his eyes on screen were no longer the eyes of a storyteller. They were the eyes of someone who has seen something deeper, gentler, more merciful. When a Land Becomes a Calling, Chapter 3, ends with a clear shift in Jonathan's soul. He's no longer an actor seeking inspiration, nor an artist chasing symbolism, nor an observer watching history. He has become a pilgrim, each step touching some sacred layer in the land, in history, in others, and in himself. This chapter is about the fall of the heart, when the Holy Land ceases to be the backdrop of Scripture and becomes the setting of his own soul. Every tear, every silence, every strange moment, every unexpected encounter, all lead to an unspoken conclusion: I came here to know him better. But in the end, he helped me know myself. A journey that leaves light in the heart. Jonathan Roumie's pilgrimage to the Holy Land was not a trip to collect pretty views, historical facts, or acting material. It went far beyond all of that. It became an inner turning point, a meeting between a fragile man and the land that witnessed the greatest love story in history. He arrived as an actor, but he left as a changed man. On the stone steps of Capernaum, the winds of Galilee, the darkness of Gethsemane, the echo inside the empty tomb, the strange hush over Tabgha, the gentle warning of an elderly monk. All of these formed a single invitation, an invitation for Jonathan to let go of fear and step into the road of truth, authenticity, and sacrifice that the role of Jesus demands.
Yet a young East Asian
This role is not just a job, it is a calling, a responsibility, a cross. And the Holy Land helped him understand that only those who carry the cross with humility can become an instrument of light. What makes this journey so mysterious and sacred is not the supernatural events, though there were many, and they're hard to ignore. It is the very human truth that Jonathan was afraid. Jonathan was exhausted. Jonathan wondered if he was worthy of the role. Jonathan crumbled more than once under the weight of the world's expectations. And it was precisely in those weak places that the Holy Land touched him the deepest. Just as Jesus has always chosen the weakest vessels to accomplish the greatest things. This journey restored to Jonathan the most important thing: a softened heart, humble and healed. From the eyes of a little boy in Nazareth to the odd stillness on the hillside of the loaves and fishes. From tears in Peter's prison to the deep emotion in Mark's house. Jonathan understood that he is not just playing Jesus for an audience. He is letting Jesus live through him. That's why people who meet Jonathan in real life often say they feel warmth, peace, and love around him.
The commentary says
not because he's the star of the chosen, but because when someone has truly touched the sacred, there is always something in their eyes that cannot be hidden. In the end, the greatest gift of this pilgrimage is not that Jonathan found God in the Holy Land. It is that he realized God was already there in every person he met, in every breeze, in every silence, in every tear, and in his own heart. That is the greatest gift of this journey. And it is the deepest legacy he will carry into Season 6, not as an actor, but as a witness.
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted.